we invite you to join us on a spiritual journey, a faithful journey. Have you ever pondered the depths of faith that are hidden from view, the detours that bring us nearer to God? Come along with me as we examine the Bible's secrets, the effectiveness of prayer, and the significant effects of leading a life that is fully devoted to Christ. Let's join you on this spiritual journey by subscribing right now. The story of Ruth and Boaz, found in the Old Testament Book of Ruth, is among the most profound narratives of faith, resilience, and divine orchestration in all of Scripture. While only 4 chapters in length, the book is densely packed with cultural, theological, and emotional layers that reach far beyond its ancient setting. It is a story of loss and hope, foreignness and belonging, bitterness and redemption, all set during the time of the Judges, a period marked by social unrest and spiritual drift in Israel's history. Despite its brevity, the Book of Ruth has captivated generations of readers with its intimacy and emotional depth. It shifts from the grand, national epics typical of the Old Testament, like the conquest of Canaan or the rise of kings, to focus on the personal journey of a Moabite widow and her unexpected integration into the lineage of Israel's greatest king, David, and ultimately, Jesus Christ. The story's themes resonate powerfully in any age: faithfulness in times of hardship, the dignity of labor, the importance of community and family, the power of God's providence, and the beauty of redemptive love. It reminds us that no life is too small for God to use in a mighty way. The story opens with a crisis. A severe famine has struck the region of Bethlehem in Judah. Elimelech, his wife Naomi, and their 2 sons, Mahlon and Chilion, leave their homeland in search of food and a better life in Moab, a neighboring but traditionally hostile nation. This decision, while practical, marks a spiritual and physical departure from the promised land, symbolizing a step away from covenant blessing. Soon after arriving in Moab, Elimelech dies, leaving Naomi a widow in a foreign land. Her sons marry Moabite women, Ruth and Orpah, but after about 10 years, both Mahlon and Chilion also die. Naomi is left alone, bereft of husband and sons, facing economic destitution and social marginalization. In ancient Israel, the loss of a male protector placed women in extreme vulnerability. For Naomi, the grief is compounded by her status as a foreigner and her perceived abandonment by God. When she decides to return to Bethlehem upon hearing that the Lord had visited his people with food, she urges her daughters-in-law to remain in Moab, where they might remarry and find security. Orpah tearfully agrees, but Ruth clings to Naomi, making one of the most iconic declarations of loyalty in the Bible. "Do not urge me to leave you or to return from following you. For where you go I will go, and where you lodge I will lodge. Your people shall be my people, and your God my God." Ruth 1 verse 16. Ruth's words signal not only her devotion to Naomi but also her wholehearted embrace of Naomi's faith and culture. It is a radical act of loyalty, identity transformation, and faith. When they arrive in Bethlehem, the women of the town are stirred, recognizing Naomi but surprised by her bitterness. Naomi, whose name means pleasant, insists on being called Mara, meaning bitter, saying, "The Almighty has dealt very bitterly with me." She believes she has returned empty, unaware that Ruth will become the vessel of her redemption. Ruth's identity as a Moabite woman cannot be understated. The Moabites descended from Lot's incestuous union with his daughter, Genesis 19 verses 30 to 38, and they were often at odds with Israel. Moabites were excluded from the assembly of the Lord, Deuteronomy 23 verse 3. Yet Ruth, a Moabite, becomes a heroine in the biblical narrative, illustrating God's ability to transcend ethnic and national boundaries. Ruth's faith is not rooted in convenience or coercion but in genuine conviction. Her decision to adopt Naomi's God as her own reflects deep spiritual insight. In a world where gods were often bound to specific lands or peoples, Ruth's willingness to abandon Chemosh, the god of Moab, for the God of Israel demonstrates a profound theological leap. In Bethlehem, Ruth quickly assumes the role of provider. Aware of their economic plight, she offers to go gleaning in the fields. This act is not merely humble but also dangerous. As a young foreign woman, Ruth risks harassment, assault, and further marginalization. Her initiative speaks volumes of her character, courageous, diligent, and selfless. Her faith is active, not passive. She does not wait for divine intervention but moves forward with hope and humility, trusting that God will provide. Boaz is introduced as a man of standing, a wealthy and influential landowner from the clan of Elimelech. He is more than just prosperous, he is righteous. The first words he utters are a blessing to his workers, "The Lord be with you." His integrity and the mutual respect between him and his laborers set a tone of godliness and ethical leadership. Boaz first encounters Ruth in his fields. Moved by her story and impressed by her devotion to Naomi, Boaz ensures her safety, instructing his men not to harm or rebuke her. He offers her food and allows her to glean among the sheaves, a generous act exceeding what the law required. His actions reflect the heart of a redeemer. He sees Ruth's value not in her ethnicity or status but in her character. He honors her dignity and protects her, embodying what Israelite manhood was meant to reflect: responsibility, mercy, and justice. Boaz's kindness is not random, it's rooted in Torah values. The Mosaic law commanded provision for the poor, the widow, and the foreigner. Boaz lives out the letter and spirit of this law. In him, we see a foreshadowing of Jesus Christ, who would become the ultimate redeemer. The practice of gleaning, while unfamiliar to many modern readers, was a form of social welfare rooted in Israel's covenant ethics. Landowners were commanded not to harvest the edges of their fields and not to go over their crops a second time, leaving behind food for the poor, Leviticus 19 verses 9 to 10, Deuteronomy 24 verses 19 to 22. Ruth's decision to glean is both practical and symbolic. Her labor represents human responsibility within divine providence. She takes initiative, and God meets her there. The narrator notes, as it turned out, she ends up in the field of Boaz. This seemingly casual detail underscores the theological heart of the book: God is sovereign over what appears random. Ruth works tirelessly, catching Boaz's attention not by seeking favor but through her faithfulness. Her integrity becomes her introduction. Boaz praises her not only for caring for Naomi but for seeking refuge under God's wings, language that implies trust and covenant protection. Their interaction is subtle yet laden with significance. Boaz blesses her, Ruth responds with humility, and their relationship begins with mutual respect and admiration. As the harvest season concludes, Naomi hatches a bold plan. Aware of Boaz's status as a kinsman redeemer and his favorable treatment of Ruth, she instructs Ruth to approach Boaz at the threshing floor, a place where grain was separated from chaff, often accompanied by festivity. Naomi's plan is risky. Ruth is to bathe, anoint herself, dress in her best garments, and approach Boaz at night. She is to uncover his feet and lie down, a culturally symbolic act requesting protection, not seduction. Ruth obeys, trusting Naomi's wisdom. When Boaz wakes and finds Ruth at his feet, she does not wait for him to speak. She boldly says, "Spread your garment over your servant, for you are a redeemer." The imagery of covering is rich in scripture, signifying marriage, protection, and covenant. Boaz is honored by Ruth's proposal, seeing it as an act of hesed, covenant loyalty. He affirms her virtue, praises her kindness, and vows to resolve the matter, though he reveals there is a closer redeemer who must be consulted first. This midnight encounter is not about scandal but about faith and trust. It affirms Ruth's agency and Boaz's integrity. The next day, Boaz goes to the city gate, a place where legal transactions and community decisions were made. He gathers 10 elders and waits for the unnamed closer kinsman. Boaz presents the situation: Naomi is selling a parcel of land that belonged to Elimelech, and the man has the right to redeem it. Initially, the kinsman agrees to redeem the land, but when Boaz mentions that doing so would also entail marrying Ruth the Moabite to maintain the lineage, the man declines. He says it might endanger his own estate, possibly indicating concerns about inheritance issues or social stigma. Boaz then publicly claims the right of redemption. In the presence of witnesses, he redeems the land and acquires Ruth as his wife. A symbolic act of removing a sandal seals the transaction, In accordance with ancient custom, Deuteronomy 25 verses 9 to 10. The elders and townspeople bless the union, invoking the names of Rachel, Leah, and Tamar, women through whom God built the house of Israel. This public affirmation reveals how the community values Ruth and Boaz and sees their union as divinely orchestrated.